Jeff from Chillin and Grillin with Jeff here. I'm in this industrial yard. It's an interesting location. My guys from Bog Line Barbecue said I had to come up, meet them here to see what they're up to. So let's go find them and see what they're up to. By the way, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Chillin and Grillin with Jeff. Hey, here's a couple of Bog Line shirts. Hey, bud, how you doing?
Hey, not bad, Jeff.
Good.
How you doing?
Good. Good
Hey,
to see you.
Jeff.
Hey, nice to meet you.
This is Chad.
Chad. So you said you got to come up and see what the new adventure is. So you didn't describe it exactly accurately. It's kind of an industrial yard, and I'm interested. What's going on?
This is the charcoal yard. So us at Bog Line here, you know, we obviously build pits mostly.
Yeah.
We knew we wanted to add charcoal to the brand, but we were struggling to find the time to do that. And Chad here, like us, was working in the oil and gas industry, and one day over coffee, we were kind of discussing this idea of making charcoal.
Of course, you guys at Bog Line would talk about, hey, let's have a beer and talk about making charcoal.
He was already making charcoal on a small scale at home, and he loves barbecue like we do, so it only made sense. But for us, we didn't have time. So what happened is a new company evolved out of it. But it's, you know, we work together on the branding end of it. But Bog Line Bush Coal is run by the kiln master here, Chad.
I've never thought about it. I've been cooking on charcoal forever. I know obviously a lot of guys and gals that cook on charcoal. I've never thought to myself, where does charcoal come from? I can say this, I notice differences in quality. I don't know why I notice it, but you know, what the science is behind it, but I'll open a bag of charcoal and think, wow, I'll never buy this again, or I'll open one and say, this is really good. So walk us through charcoal. What are we seeing? What's the difference? What's the process? What makes good charcoal? What makes bad charcoal?
Well, as you said, I've cooked on charcoal for the past 30 years of my life as well, ever since I've been on my own. Again, Nick mentioned I was making my own charcoal for a lot of years. The problem I had with buying the store-bought charcoal was the quality. At the end of the day, you buy you know, 18-pound bag, you get 5 pounds of powder.
We've all dumped that into the bag, and
that's right.
Big cloud of charcoal dust. You got to walk away for 5 minutes.
You know, there you are stuck with 5 pounds of charcoal that you can't use.
What about taste? Is charcoal going to affect the taste to any extent when we're cooking? If I do a steak on 2 different charcoals, am I going to notice it?
I believe, yeah. So with our charcoal, we take the bark off all our wood ahead of time before it goes into the kiln. In my opinion, it takes the smoke, the unnecessary smoke out of the charcoal. This stuff that we're making burns really hot, really clean. Essentially, if you want to add smoke flavor to your meat, you're going to have to add a little bit of smoking chips.
So that's interesting. We don't want to necessarily get an abundance of smoky flavor from the charcoal. We want to cook on the charcoal.
Yeah.
And if we want smoke, we're going to add.
That's correct. We're not looking to smoke with charcoal. We're looking to cook with charcoal.
Okay.
And you're going to get some flavor from it. But in my opinion, the difference is the way it's manufactured. And like he said, things like removing the bark matters too. And also the source wood. You know, what wood are they really using? Is it good quality? And what process are they using? A lot of the inferior charcoals are made by actually igniting the wood, letting it burn, and then extinguishing it. But the problem with that is there's a really ideal temperature for charcoal production. And as soon as you exceed 800 degrees Fahrenheit, you start to lose quality and you start to lose yield. So, you know, you lose BTUs per piece of charcoal, right? So there's a whole bunch of factors that play into it. But yeah, the wood that you start with and the process that you use are really going to, you know, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
You know,
so we're not just taking wood and burning it and then blowing it out kind of thing and taking that and putting it in a bag. There's a lot more to that process.
So the process is called pyrolysis. And what that is something that's been burned in the absence of oxygen. So the wood goes into a sealed drum, and the drum maintains a positive pressure. It starts with a wood fire underneath, and that positive pressure eventually comes off this top pipe, and it starts off as steam, the moisture from the wood. Right. But eventually it turns into gas, and you see that even in a campfire. You know, you'll see a jet of flame shooting out the side of a log. Right. It's the gases in the wood, and that's why a wood fire burns a lot hotter than charcoal, and charcoal has that low and slow, more longevity to it because that gas has been removed, and now you're just left with carbon.
So you're not actually burning the charcoal. The fire is outside of the box, and it's the heat itself that's inside.
So the wood gets loaded from the side, and Chad here uses the bark that comes off. Most charcoal manufacturers are going to use slab wood because it's cheap and, you know, easy to use. Right. In this case, the slab wood comes off, gets used as scrap underneath, and just the premium wood goes in the cook chamber.
Almost like an offset smoker. We've
Yep.
got a fire going outside of the firebox,
Yep.
but instead of having food inside, we've got wood.
Yep.
That's right.
Going to burn it off, the gas. So what happens with the gas? What's actually causing this to burn if it's
So
oxygen
your wood
deficient?
inside comes up to a temperature of about 200 and 230 degrees. It starts to emit a white steam like we talked about. As the temperature comes up, the white steam, it turns into, like, you'll see almost a blue color come out. And at
Where
about,
will we see that on here?
so when we start, we open this valve completely up. White steam emits off into the atmosphere.
Okay.
And it's coming off this pipe.
It's coming through coming through here, out of the inside, comes through here. Steam goes out that way. As this steam heats up at 530 degrees, the steam turns into a gas, which is it'll go yellow and really stinky, really strong, pungent smell.
Okay.
At that point, we close this valve and we open this valve. So our gas now is going back in, and it's lighting these 3 burners right here. These are essentially barbecue burners. It lights those 3 burners, which brings the temperature of the inside up to the optimal 750. We like to cook between 750 and 775 degrees.
So you're literally cooking. You use the term yourself. You're literally cooking, but you're cooking wood.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
And the gas actually burns a lot harder. The wood fire alone underneath will never get it up to the temperature needed to achieve pyrolysis.
Right.
It's the gas. As soon as you flip to gas mode, that temperature comes up really fast.
Okay.
And you're actually watching the temperature on the elbow, which has a gauge in it, which is directly in the flue gas. And you're going to see that that's the, you're monitoring the temperature of the gas coming off the cook chamber. There is gauges on each end, but they indicate more when it's finishing.
So how long does this process take?
Well, from start to finish, by the time we've got the wood into the point where we can load it into the machine, I would say we're about a 12-hour day.
About a 12-hour day. So
Yeah.
that's from loading it up to
Yeah.
finishing it off.
Once it's
open it up.
loaded, once it's sealed up, and we got the fire lit, we're about a 8 to 10-hour cook.
Okay, and then that has to cool off, obviously.
Yeah, so then we shut it in at night, obviously, before we leave. It'll sit probably close to 16 to 18 hours before we open the door to make sure. You don't want to introduce oxygen too quickly, as if you introduce oxygen too quickly, the charcoal inside will ignite, and we're in a big trouble if that happens. It'll bring the temperature inside of this thing up to a point where the machine won't even be able to handle it, and it will melt it down,
Right.
essentially.
Okay, and then once it cools down, this is the manual label portion. Somebody's got to literally.
We
Shove it out
handbag
and-
everything. We want to make sure that we're not getting that little tiny, the small stuff we talked about earlier. We're not getting that in our bag. That is our number one thing.
So what happens with all the leftover, the smaller stuff, the dust, the stuff the bark that you're burning underneath? What happens with all that?
Okay, so the bark that I burn underneath, it goes into my compost pile behind me here. It essentially will activate the charcoal and enrich the topsoil.
So you're mixing the charcoal right in, just putting it back into the environment.
That's right.
One of the best soil amendments in the
Yeah.
world is charcoal. It's if you look at that under a microscope, it's very porous, almost looks like a sponge, and it allows a spot for microorganisms to live, and also it holds minerals and water. So especially in this region, commercial farming is hard on the soil. It strips everything right out of it, and we turn the soil so much that it kills a lot of the microorganisms that live in it. So charcoal is really beneficial to help repair that damage and amend poor soil into something usable.
One of the things I notice is this block, I would call it creosote, and it looks like it produces a lot. Does that go to waste, or what's happening with this?
So Jeff, this is a knockout drum. So one of the things that, even during the gasification process, you're still gonna have some moisture. So this comes down and comes straight down, and it shoots the moisture into the bottom of this drum. There's a valve in the back that draws it off, and it's wood liquor. It's a combination of water and tar. It's nasty looking stuff, but it actually has purposes too.
What would we use that for?
Well, one of the most common uses you'll see around here is on the back roads for dust control. Pulp and paper mills produce the exact same product, and they'll put it on the roads as an all-natural dust control. Back in the day, they used motor oil, which has obvious, or calcium.
Not as good for the environment, for sure.
Yep.
This is great, guys. Fantastic, super interesting. So I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the wood itself. Is there a difference? Are we looking for oak or maple or pine, or what are you looking for when you're starting with the wood product?
Well, right now we're using a sugar maple brand as our main source of firewood right now that we're using.
Will it make a difference if you had oak, or is the finished product essentially the same?
The oak, and we do a blend. We have a blend of hickory, oak, and maple again. Just it matters with the density of the wood. Preferably this maple, it makes a really nice finished product. It's nice and shiny, hard. Once it's been exposed to the outside air,
Okay.
it hardens up real nice.
And what's interesting too, Jeff, is the blends and different species of wood really changes the cook process. Like,
It sure
I was going to
does.
say it affects the time
Yeah,
probably.
it does, yeah.
you pretty well got to relearn each batch.
Yeah.
You know, if you're running the same wood all the time, and moisture level is important too. Like, you know, so we check the moisture level with a hydrometer.
Okay.
And you can put green wood in; it just takes longer. You got to remove all that moisture.
More
before
moisture to
pyrolysis
take out.
starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can feel this. This is like that's a heavy piece of wood.
Surprisingly so. Yeah.
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 So the denser the wood, the denser the charcoal, and the more
The-
BTUs
the-
per piece of
the better
charcoal.
off you are.
Yeah.
And so when you were talking earlier about the slab wood, this obviously the bark comes off,
That's right.
and now this is what's burning underneath it to start the process itself.
That's correct.
And then the leftover ash or dust from here goes back into the soil. Yep.
So most people don't take the time to do that, and you know why, right?
Well, their theory would be it's wood and it's creating
right.
something to put in the
That's-
bag, and it's all about the weight, right?
But anytime you save time or convenience, there's always a sacrifice.
Right.
And whether that's with cooking or with charcoal, it all matters. So.
Yeah. What we're saying to the real grillers out there, we hear a lot of talk about, we've had you guys on, we've talked about barbecues, about smokers, about going with quality.
Yep.
We've had butchers on talking about the quality of meat.
Yep.
I think we've forgotten all this time until now is the quality of the charcoal. Like that's the missing piece. So that's what's interesting to me is,
Correct.
you know, we've got the right, fantastic barbecue. We've got some fantastic steaks to go on there,
Yep.
but we're cooking over lousy charcoal.
That's right.
Who knew?
And even with smokers, you know, the same results. The good wood makes for a good fire, and it all matters.
Yeah.
You know, with Bog Line, our goal has we've never really considered price. We always consider being the best.
Right. Well, we've looked at your barbecues and the quality and the workmanship that goes in. Some may argue is over the top. I wouldn't, but I would say, you know, you certainly haven't skipped anywhere when we've looked at the barbecues, and we've had some of the food that's come out of them, and it's been amazing. So,
Absolutely.
so am I going to see it if we grab some bags of store-bought charcoal and your Bog Line and we dump some on the table? Am I going to see a difference?
Yep.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot right now. Am I going to see a
Absolutely.
difference? All right, let's
Absolutely.
check this out. All right, so we got 3 bags of charcoal here, and I'd like to, like as I said, I'll put you guys on the spot. Like I'm going to open these up, and we're going to pour them on the table, and let's see what the difference is. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure people watching this right now, nobody in the history of charcoal has ever successfully opened the charcoal bag this way. I think
Yeah.
you're the only guy who actually knows the secret.
I always struggle with this. I don't know what this. I ended up tearing them. A lot of the time, if I have a knife.
So here's the trick that I've discovered. You take the string right here,
Yep.
you do nothing with it, and then you
just tear that
then you just
open,
tear the top open.
I got this one going here. Yeah. Anyways, it's always
Yeah.
a challenge.
Yeah,
When your bag drips.
yeah. So
Guys, show them a Bog Line bag.
Bog line bag.
looks the same to me.
We have a little strip of paper right here on the bog line bag. We just peel it back like this and pull. Bag's open.
Nice. So what do we want to do? Do we want to dump 3 piles of charcoal on the table
I
here?
think that would be a bad idea.
Let's start with the blue bag.
Let's start with the blue bag? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Knock that out, Jeff.
Yep. Yeah, look at the amount of dust coming out of there. See, this is what makes me crazy. Look at this.
That drives me nuts too.
Yeah.
You're stuck with this stuff down here.
Yeah, and I like to use Kamado grills, and I find that pieces like this, which is the majority of it,
Yeah.
they're so small that they don't allow for proper airflow on the fire grill.
Yeah, same with the big green egg. As you know, I cook on that, but a lot of this from this charcoal is going to end up going right through the fire grate on the bottom.
That's right.
I'm never going to get any use out of this.
Not only that, but these bags are a lot bigger too. So most bags on the market are either 8, 17. These ones are 20 pounds.
Let's get some of it.
Okay, just stop here for a second because right away I noticed a big difference. Look at what we had coming out of the other one, all the small stuff. Look at this, the consistency of the size. So on this one over here, I've got 2 pieces that fell out. Big difference right away.
Let's look at the quality.
Yeah.
That's my selling
And like,
feature.
you know, these are big pieces. If I don't want that piece, I can break it. You know, I can build my fire how I want it.
And here I can
You
see
notice
this
the
one,
bark.
the bark, right? Yeah, yeah.
You notice the bark on all of this
Yeah.
wood here. That's, you know, that's where you're getting all this little tiny stuff here that doesn't burn.
Yeah, and so this is gonna produce too much smoke.
That's right. You're
Okay.
gonna, that's gonna smoke like crazy.
Yeah.
Also, these big brands, also there's an additive to the charcoal that it's for an accelerant when you're starting it.
Oh, really?
This here stuff is 100% natural. There is no accelerant added to it.
See the shine?
Well, I was gonna ask you about that, right? So,
So that wood's been lit on fire and extinguished. This has never been on
Yeah.
fire.
yeah, look at the
You can
difference.
see the
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, it's almost, this one's almost shinier, if you will, or kind
Yeah.
of cleaner looking. Looking at the table, how much, almost no dust, there's gonna be some.
Yeah,
The amount of dust they have right here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing over here.
Same
the dust,
thing over
the
there.
powder more that blew off of this as we were pouring it on. From my perspective, barely worth putting this in my smoker.
Yeah,
Most of that's just gonna fall right through
this
the
stuff
bottom.
is no good.
Yeah.
You want to dump all this out?
You can, yeah. Feel free. Add it right to the table. You're just not getting them fines.
This is the bottom.
Still don't have all that dust and powder blowing all over the place.
That's right.
Big difference. Much
Yeah.
more consistent in size.
That's right.
Yep.
Dig to the bottom of this pile. You know, you got a little tiny bit down there. At
Well,
the
you're
bottom.
gonna get some, right?
that.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
gonna get a little tiny
Yeah.
bit. Dig to the bottom of this pile.
Yeah,
Look at
let's-
what you're left with. There's the amount of dust you're gonna get with that. That's the stuff you're getting out of the bottom of the off brands.
Well, I've been cooking for a few years on a barbecue for sure, on a smoker and a charcoal grill. And just looking at the three piles right now, if I was going to take charcoal home, I want this. It just looks like a better quality. It's hard to explain, I guess, but
Yeah.
it just, when you were dumping it out, you could see the difference. This is kind of dull. A lot of the bark on here, another piece that has a lot of bark.
Yeah.
A lot of dust. Just, it's a lot cleaner. I mean, look at the difference here. Again, I'd much rather cook on this stuff. Speaking of cooking, I see we have a charcoal griller. Is that just for effect, or are we going to waste all this
might know how to
charcoal?
run that.
I think
Might
we're
know how to
gonna-
run it there.
Let's
You
try
got,
and
you got
fire
some
up.
tasty steaks or something to throw in there.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I think
let's
we
put
got
this
something in store.
charcoal to work.
absolutely.
All right. We're getting ready to throw the steaks on.
Yeah.
I thought you lost your mind for a minute because you had this sitting over here, and I think it was lighting. I don't see smoke and everything, but there's a lot of heat in there. Like, that is red.
It doesn't smoke.
Where's all the smoke?
So what you see when you're burning charcoal, the gas that comes off is what they call VOCs, or volatile organic compounds.
Right.
And when you light a charcoal that isn't completely combusted, and what happens is the other method, they light it on fire, they extinguish it. It probably isn't quite done in the middle, and that's why that stuff's hard to break. What that means is this is a complete pyrolysis, and when you light a green egg or whatever type of barbecue and it's smoking, that's what they call VOCs burning off, and it gives you
Okay.
that foul taste.
Right.
You know, if you put your meat on when charcoal's smoking, it's not good.
Yeah, I get that bitterness.
Yeah.
I actually stay away from the smoky, and I'm going to be curious to see if this makes a difference, because as much as I cook and grill and
Yep.
smoke, I don't like an overwhelming smoky flavor, and it comes too often. I
That's
don't
right.
want it. I'm trying to get rid of it.
Yep.
But-
So if you got to add smoke flavor
Yeah.
to this,
So that's a lot of heat coming up out of there. So perfect. You got some steaks, some little shrimp I see here.
Yeah,
and,
some little guys.
We're standing in the yard making charcoal. You have to test the product, make sure it works good. This is a quality assurance portion.
That's correct. Yeah.
Don't attempt this at home. This is all quality assurance. So what are you going to do?
I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil on these steaks. A little bit on these guys.
Can never put too much olive oil.
No, I just got simple salt and pepper.
Keep it simple. The meat should speak for itself.
That's right.
So this will give us a good chance to see if there's. I'm really going to be looking to see if I'm tasting something different. So I'm getting that bitterness from the smoke.
Yeah.
Although we don't have any smoke, so I'm going to guess we're not going to get a
I
lot.
was just gonna say smoke's not gonna be your issue
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Open the lid here. 500 degrees. We should be good for searing
Again,
off some steaks.
you expect to see that bunch of smoke coming out.
None. Just pure heat.
And that's what we like to hear, the sizzle. So somebody's going to say, we're just carnivores, but we're not. We have some vegetables coming up as well.
A little bit of vegetables coming up. Again, we're just gonna give these guys a little squeeze of lemon. Again, just some salt and pepper. I'll just throw these on around the outside. Give those a few more minutes before we give them a flip.
I got to tell you, you know your way around the grill. This looks fantastic. And it cooked up quick and hot. I was amazed at how quickly the temperature came to the right spot on here. We got some great charring, some great searing going on. That's fantastic. I'm totally going to judge you on the taste now.
Please.
I want to see if I, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a huge fan of that smoky flavor, that smokiness, because a lot of times it's bitter.
Yep.
And I think it's overdone.
That's
so,
right.
Dump in, guys. Let's see if we can tell a difference. This one's got my name written
I
all
wish
over it.
these shrimp were a bit bigger, but
Yeah, you know, got to rough it sometimes, right? It's perfect. You actually get no smokiness.
No.
Nope. All I taste is the steak. That is absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm convinced. I'll tell you what. We talked about doing an episode on charcoal. As we said, we weren't sure. Could we get a whole episode out of it? The process is amazing. It's so simple, but there's a lot of things going on. The proof is in the pudding at the end of the day, as I say just about on every show. It's all about the taste. You can tell me what you want to tell me about, but it's all about the taste when we're done, right?
That's right.
So we cooked on it. We saw the difference on the charcoals. We're cooking on it. The difference is absolutely amazing. So, hey, listen, thanks for all the information. We appreciate everything.
No problem.
We're going to dig into this. Thanks for inviting us back. I'm always amazed to see what you guys got on the grill. So when your next adventure comes along, give me a shout.
We'll let you know, Jeff.
You keep cooking good food like this, I'm here every time. Perfect. Thanks, guys. We're here with Nathan from the Canadian Barbecue Boys. He's going to spend some time with us talking about maintaining, cleaning, and just generally looking after our barbecues. I think this is an area that, as barbecue cooks and grillers, we overlook sometimes. Nathan, how you doing?
Nice to meet you, Jeff.
Thanks for joining us today, man. Yeah, appreciate it. So it's the beginning of the season. Maybe I didn't use my barbecue all winter. What do I need to be aware of? What do I need to look at?
Yeah, well, it scares people, especially, you know, not as common grills, what actually is in that barbecue. You know, that's the main place where rodents find their homes during the winter. We get in there, we're Canada's largest professional grill cleaning company. Just kind of, you know, getting in there. I mean, very minor maintenance. The main things you want to do is just scrape off that initial layer of grease and grime there. So you can use your, you know, common, any kind of household scraper here. Just kind of get in there, make sure you're getting off that initial layer. What we like to use is also steel wool. Just these little things here. You can see a difference there already between that.
I was just going to say, you can, the first two you hit, you can see a big difference. You hardly put any muscle into it.
Exactly.
It's a big difference. So, yeah.
The other things are, you know, obviously the top grade here. You want to kind of get in the sides as well. A lot of the grill brushes that you have will be equipped with the metal sides here. It even has the little lines in there for you to get in there and scrape them off as well.
We want to look for lines that may be clogged or rodents and nests, anything that's just, you know, that shouldn't be there, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. You want to take out the drip tray at the bottom. Yours, you did a great job. You've already caged it off. Obviously, you said you had a raccoon in there at one point.
Should we look at bringing in a professional service like yourself? Should we look at, there's a lot more to it than just scraping the grill? Is that what the advice would be?
For sure. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you know, the main reason our service exists is because homeowners are so busy, right? You've got work. You really don't want to open it up in the spring. You'd rather just enjoy the weather. And that's when we get in there, we get our hands dirty, you know, do it for you. There's also a limited amount that you know how to do, right? You might not necessarily be able to get into the main areas where we do see the most grease fires, right? Where it's built up. We've seen it built up that thick in the bottom of people just not maintaining it properly. Also, it could take you, you know, 8 hours to take it all apart, try and clean it. If you're power washing it, then, you know, your entire patio, everything's going to be disgusting. So yeah, I mean, we kind of get a little bit more into it than, you know, the average griller would.
So I've got my barbecue opened up, no nests, going to give it a good clean, going to scrape it out, make sure nothing catches on fire, try to scrape out those errant pieces of asparagus that fell through the grill that are still kicking around down there. We'll get it ready, get it all fired up for a new barbecue season.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
Take care.